Welcome to today's show with Philip or Phil. We're going to talk about some very important topics of the day. I know the Republicans are pretty much spineless, don't want to do anything. I mean, the media's protecting the Democrats from accountability. The Democrat Party will protect you from accountability if you did anything wrong. I'll give you an example. You take Al Sharpton, for example. Obama administration, Al Sharpton went out race baiting, and nobody liked him. Well, anyways, I'm going to play some clips that you're going to find very interesting. All right, let's go ahead and start with Judge Jeanine Pirro. She's really, really good at.
Is Judge Jeanine Pirro, co-host of The Five and best lawyer I know. My first call if I ever get in trouble. We were talking about this last night on The Five, and overnight the Legal Policy Center said, yeah, we need to look into this. I don't think BLM expected any of this.
Well, BLM didn't expect any of it because they did everything they could to hide this, not just from their donors, but from all of us. Look, there is a form called Form 990, which every charity is required to file with the government, significantly so that people who donate money to a charitable organization know how their money is being used. And Black Lives Matter ended up purchasing a home in California for $2.5 million over the asking price, and that was within a week of the house being for sale for $3.1. They end up buying it for something like $5.7. They immediately then put it in the name of a private corporation, and interestingly enough, Dana, they used the law firm Perkins Coie to put it in the name of a shell corporation. As a result of that, Black Lives Matter, none of the donors, the government doesn't know anything about this. They use all cash to purchase a home, and instead of opening it up to Black Lives Matter, the organization, Patricia Cullors, the co-founder of BLM, lives in it for a short time. Her mother works there. Her brother is the head of security there. Her sister is signed on to work there as well, and she now is upset that the government is using Form 990 to weaponize.
We have that. You got to see this. Okay, watch it.
It is such a trip now to hear the word, the term 990s. I'm like, ugh, it's like triggering. This doesn't seem safe for us. This 990 structure, this nonprofit system structure, this is like deeply unsafe. Like this is being literally weaponized against us. They know what they're doing, like how to create the infighting, how to create the distrust. We have to stop it.
It's amazing. I mean, that law applies to everybody. How can it be a target just to them?
You know, think about it, Dana. Everyone who's watching us now knows that this is April, that they have to file a tax return.
April 15th.
That's right. We're all triggered, but we follow the law. And for them to say the law is being weaponized against them when they did everything in their power, circumstantially proving the IRS's case, both a civil and a criminal case, as alleged by the Watchdog Group, indicates that they knew what the law was, and now they're saying you're using it against us. Yeah. The government passes laws for good reason.
I don't want to let this go. We only have 1 minute left. Listen to Mayor Adams here. We'll just get a quick thought about this. This is what he said yesterday.
Black Lives Matters, and the thousands of people I saw on the street when Floyd was murdered should be on the street right now stating that the lives of these black children that are dying every night matters. We can't be hypocrites.
Okay, so there's the mayor.
Whoa.
It's about time. It is the first time, Dana, I have heard the mayor say that all Black Lives Matter. When a year ago, when he was running, if you said that, you'd be canceled. But you know what? Finally, he wants to say it. God bless him for saying it. It's about time we recognize that all Black Lives matter, and not just those lost of it.
My new co-host on The Five, Judge Jeanine.
We love Dana.
Yeah, it's
Happy
great.
Easter.
Happy Easter to you.
Thank you.
It's a real joy to know you.
Thank you, Dana. Vice versa.
Julian?
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilton.
So, with that being said, there's your first video evidence of an organization called Black Lives Matter is now shaking because they don't want to account where the money that is being donated to them. They don't want to tell the government where the money is going and shielding it with a law firm or a private corporation. Now, let me tell you, I understand the cause is protect the people of color. But don't you think all lives matter? Come on. What about biracial lives? What about all lives? What about people who immigrated to America? What about their lives? What about the Native Americans who've been here before the United States was settled? What about their lives? What about people immigrating to the United States for a better life? What about their lives? Don't their lives matter? I think so. Oh, soon to be mothers. They're carrying another human life in their womb. What about those lives? Well, my body, my choice. True. It's very true. All right. What about that 27-year-old woman from China had abortions back to back? She had 26 abortions back to back. And the doctor said that her uterus is scarred from the abortion, and she's infertile. My body, my choice, right? My body, my choice, right? Now she's gonna grow out of that phase. You know, nowhere how to pass down a grow a family if she wants to. Hey, actions have consequences. All right, now we're gonna keep on talking about this, okay? I'm gonna play this next clip.
Prominent Black Lives Matter leader hitting back at a Democrat who's been critical of the group. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has slammed BLM for being silent on the rising violence that impacts Black Americans. Hogg Newsom, co-founder of BLM of New York, responding to Adams while speaking to Dana today.
So let's get back to Eric Adams, this mayor who is a Democrat, but he spews conservative and Republican talking points. He's a white man in blackface and a very conservative-minded white man. He had 16 shooting victims on a train, and they say, "What are you going to do about policing?" And he says, "What about BLM?" Is America not smart enough to see him deflecting?
The BLM leader is also taking time to defend the defund the police movement after reports that the movement led to a startling spike in the murders of Black Americans.
The cops are not the answer. Poor people commit crimes out of desperation. Address the poverty. The Republicans don't care. But they'll say, we'll teach you. They'll say, we'll teach you to empower yourselves. Democrats want to keep us handicapped and crippled and on welfare.
All right, Judge, I want to go to you first because I want to hit the actual heart of this issue and not just how he can be sometimes on TV, as Dana saw today. He says that Adams' plan is a monumental failure. He says 4 months into it that most of the arrests through the plainclothes officers program are petty crimes, and what he says the DA is prosecuting is just violations. So he says that's a failure and that Adams' policies aren't making the city any safer.
Well, first of all, I don't know if that's the case. Number one, I don't know if street crime cops or the anti-crime unit, as it's been called historically, is there for petty crimes. That's number one. Number two, I found it fascinating that we just closed with him saying, the Republicans, they'll teach you how to help. Well, they'll teach us and they'll try to help us, but the Democrats won't do anything. I mean, I'm not sure what he wants, but here's the bottom line. We can blame the death of Black Americans on the Black Lives Matter movement to defund the police. It is that simple. There is a statistical reality to the fact that once that movement started with defund police, more blacks and minorities in the inner cities were being murdered.
The stats do not lie. And what shocks me is that the people who joined the movement, which I have no problem with, I think the movement is good, the organization is not. But that join the movement, why aren't they saying, where is our money? Where are the donations? Where are the pledges? Why aren't we helping black lives and not just those ones that they want to highlight as significant and awful, those that involve police? Activists look the other way when it comes to black lives. And I don't have a lot of respect for that guy. I'm sorry. You ought to be out there fighting for all black victims. And maybe he thinks he is. But as far as I'm concerned, is Adams deflecting? Yeah, I think he deflects. I don't think Adams has done a great job in the first 100 days. I think the first time he talked about really making sure we get people was when the guy on the train. And so we have a decision to make. We either keep pressuring him to protect us or we just move on to someone else.
Harold, one thing he did say, he says that they believe that the mother of poverty or the mother of crime is poverty. So as he went through the interview, as Dana saw, some of the talking points were a little bit less incendiary and a little bit more careful, I guess. But he says that basically the only reason there's crime in New York City is that because there's poverty in New York City and that police can't be the answer.
Well, I differ with him on a couple of fronts. Number one, I think Mayor Adams is not what he described. Number two, I differ a little bit with what the judge said about the BLM being responsible for all these things, but I do agree with your overall point, Judge, that the movement is certainly something I support more than some of the individuals. But that young fella has a right to share his views. He was on the show, and I just disagree with him. I think at the end of the day, my father grew up poor, grew up one of 15. They didn't go out killing people and robbing and looting. They went and got an education and thank God, raised families. To say that poor people, it's an indictment on poor people to say that.
Yeah.
Indictment on lower middle class and middle class people to say that. So I think I understand what he's trying to say. We need better policies to help empower communities, to provide jobs and education opportunities and healthcare. But that's not the way you say it. What we need in this city and what other cities need, we need federal crime task forces working with our local officials. We need more cops on the streets. We need more dollars for training police officers so we can avoid some of the tragedies that we've seen in the nation over the last year and a half or two. And finally, we need to lock up people who commit crimes. Any Democrat, again, this bail reform, I think the mayor has been outright against it. He's been to Albany protesting and advocating against the law. I would encourage Governor Hochul and others, if you want to get reelected, reform bail. It was a benign thing to do early on to try to figure out how you get non-violent offenders. Don't let them go to jail, but a violent offender should stay in jail, period. That's what every organization who wants to fight crime should be stating.
Greg, this guy's appointed himself as the leader of the BLM movement in New York. Is the same guy that said there'll be blood on the streets if Mayor Adams was elected?
I mean, BLM has done to black people what Chris Wallace did to CNN Plus. He enticed them with a promise and then ditched them on the side of the road. I'm going to do this every segment, so just get used to it. Look, number one, everything Harold said is correct, and the judge is right. We have the highest crime in 30 years. We might have poverty in New York City, but we have the highest taxes in the country. So you can't blame poverty. You have to blame the corrupt liberal leaders. And when you look at these high crime cities, there's one singular example that's there in each one: single party rule. You got to have, and this is a poor analogy, you got to have a mom and a dad, and you got to have a Republican, and you got to have a Democrat. One can be more powerful than the other, but they're checks and their balances. There's if you let Democrats run everything, the very worst intentions will come to light. And I'd say the same thing about Republicans. They got to balance each other out. New York City has no Republican counterpoint. If you look at places like Chicago or Los Angeles, that's missing. So what happens is the very worst ideas bubble up. Like the bail reform thing was a terrible idea. That wouldn't have come through if there was a kind of a balance between left and right. You got to have the mom and the dad politically together to create this. And also the last thing about the crime is, you look at places like CNN and other media, they did champion the demoralization of the police. They bought into it, and that fueled the first ever national Ferguson effect, which is when law enforcement pulls back, and that led to more crime and the crime epidemic. So you could definitely say that the media had a large responsibility. It's not entirely BLM. It's the way their message was mutated by the media.
Dana, when you guys asked him about the $6 million mansion that a BLM leader, Patrice Cullors, bought and really can't answer, he gave really examples of what his organization is doing here in New York City that's much different than that.
Well, he also was one of the. He was somebody who blew the whistle on the fundraising and how they were spending the money. And he said that you have to be able to separate the two.
Yeah.
And I just think in the public's mind that is difficult to do. You have that you're taking in all of this information. That's hard to do. Now, I also think that he has a good point about something. He said there's things that he's done in his neighborhood, which is local solutions, local control. That makes a lot of sense. One of them is, for example, they opened a Montessori school that apparently is doing great things. I said, I'll come to visit. I'd love to do it. But he said that none of the media will come and cover that story. But they'll cover his other comments. Well, part of the reasons they cover those comments is because they're so incendiary.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, having just in the last 3 weeks interviewed Mayor Adams and then Hawk Newsom, I'm like, wait, if you guys got in a room, you actually agree on a lot more.
Yeah.
For example, Mayor Adams is saying that like what de Blasio did with the public schools was horrible, and he's trying to reverse some of those things. That's something Hawk Newsom agrees with. So there is an opportunity for these two leaders. One is elected, one is appointed, but they're obviously charismatic people that if you could just figure out a way to get them in a room and bring them together, they might be able to achieve a lot more.
Incendiary by design. We just did a whole segment on it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play another video. So let's get ready to play the other one. Now, many of you have voted. Many of you have voted for the Democratic Party all your life. I can't blame you. All right, I really can't blame you. All right. So all I can tell you right now is I'm going to play this video right here in front of you, and I'm going to let you make your conclusion. All right, you ready for me to go ahead and play the other video? I'm going to go ahead and let you watch it yourself, because you got to see this. You need to hear it.
Senator Elizabeth Warren has a stern warning for Democrats. In a lengthy op-ed, she writes this. Here's a quote. To put it bluntly, if we fail to use the months remaining before the elections to deliver on more of our agenda, Democrats are headed towards big losses in the midterms. This, as the Washington Post ranks possible 2024 frontrunners, putting VP Harris in third behind Mayor Pete. The paper saying we're dropping Harris down a slot this time. She's done little to change the perceptions that harmed her in 2020, including on her ability to drive a message. Fox News contributor, former Democrat himself, Leo Terrell, joins us now. Leo, can you believe it? You know, when Jimmy Carter was president, Ted Kennedy ran against him. It really hurt the Democratic Party. They don't care about hurting the Democratic. This would be a Democratic incumbent, and they don't care about running possible prospects out there. Why?
I'll tell you why, because you have the weakest president. You mentioned Jimmy Carter. Biden is worse than Jimmy Carter. And I'll tell you right now, Brian, when you talk about the Carter administration, at least they try to be for the working class. The Democratic Party today is not the party of the working class. It's the party of the elite. They have turned their backs on the Democratic working class people. Think about it, Brian. Working class people want safe streets. They want good schools. They want the border secure. And they want inflation down. Democrats are not even thinking about that. They're talking about continuation of the Biden administration policies, which you cannot defend. It's indefensible.
All right, so one of the quotes from Elizabeth Warren's column was this, another one. While Republican politicians peddle lies, fear, and division, we should use every single one of the next 200 days or so before the election to deliver meaningful improvement for working people. Is that why they're going to bat for trans rights and talking about hormone blockers.
You know what? I'll tell you right now, Brian, I was a Democrat. I'm a school teacher. And that's not what working class Americans want at all. Elizabeth Warren is in a bubble because what she's asking the Biden administration to do is double down on the policies that are currently failing. They're failing this country. And what they're in denial of is what was going on, what was working before they took office was working. But of course, that would have to be giving kudos to Trump, and they're not going to do that.
I want to show the people at home this list who don't get the Washington Post delivered to their doorstep. President Biden's #1, so that's good news for him. He is the president. Pete Buttigieg, #2, for doing such a great job with the supply chain. Vice President Harris doing a fantastic job at the border. Elizabeth Warren's been so quiet. Klobuchar's #5. Governor Roy Cooper, Sherrod Brown, who decided not to run last time. Cory Booker, #8. Gavin Newsom, horrific job, almost recalled out in California. And then Queens' own AOC. Out of that group, who are you looking at right now if you're a Democrat? I notice there's no moderates there. You don't see Cuellar, you don't see Manchin.
Please, let me tell you right now, you got the weakest incumbent president ever. And I want to be very clear. Save this tape. Kamala Harris' elected political career is over. She'll never win again. Pete Buttigieg, the man who talks a lot but says nothing, this is a very, very weak Democratic bench. I would pick #11 on there, and since there's only 10, #11 is the best candidate on that list, Brian.
#11 is the best. Someone's not there. Hey, Tulsi Gabbard, I thought, was the best debater. She was the first one to expose Kamala Harris on the stage,
yes.
but doesn't really have much momentum inside the party. Great to see you.
They don't like moderates. They don't like moderates. The Democratic Party, like I said, the working class, the Democratic Party is not the party of the moderates. Kristen Sinema, Joe Manchin, Tulsi Gabbard, they're persona non grata.
I'm telling you right now, if they ran Manchin, I don't know much about Sinema in detail, but if they get some Republican votes. But we'll see.
Absolutely.
Leo, thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe.
So, with that being said, I'm going to have to ask you, just look at today's gas prices. And there have been reports of, businesses, the food manufacturing chains burning to the ground. I don't have no news to verify this. Now, now I want to go ahead and touch base about Disney shredded for lying on that about the Florida bill that became law. All right, and anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and play a clip on Candace Owens. Are y'all ready?
Joe Biden is certainly alienated.
I'm gonna go ahead and play a clip. Let me go ahead and add it in. Let me go find it. Let me find it. All right, let me find this here. Let me edit this. All right, well, let me remove some of these things here off of there. So, now I want to add something on. I want you to see this video source to make sense. Okay, you ready? I'm gonna go find that video. I'm gonna play it. So Now,
Well, Joe Biden has certainly alienated a lot of the United States. In fact, his popularity has collapsed in every single Democrat.
so I'm gonna go ahead and get that. Let me go get that. Let me go find that video. Okay, be patient with me. All right. Alrighty. So let me get this thing here off my face here, and so let's go ahead and play.
Graphic group that pollsters track, except college-educated women, where he's more popular. Kind of weird. But Biden is down more than 20% among black voters. No one in the Biden administration seems aware this is happening.
How many of you are going to go vote Democrat?
Shocked to learn it.
You do realize, Pete, a lot of black people feel like Democrats have kept no promises since they've been in office.
Really?
Yes. Reverend Allen said that a million times.
Remember that scene in Animal House when they go to the roadhouse late at night? One frat boy goes, "Otis, he loves us." That's the mind of the white liberals. Black people love us. They really think that. It's hilarious. Obviously, no one in the administration is watching the Reverend Al on MSNBC. Here's Sharpton just yesterday. Watch this.
They're losing people of color because they really don't get the people of color's life. If you are living in a city, in a neighborhood that is inundated with crime, and you act like that is not an issue, you've already lost me. That is an issue. Yes, we must deal with policing. I've been out front of that. But you cannot ignore when 12-year-old kids who's somebody's niece and neighbor is killed, and you act like that's a non-issue because you're too elitist to live on the ground. Many parts of this country, we need gas to go to work. These beltway elitists, these limousine liberals here in New York, don't live in the real world.
Oh, so it turns out black people actually don't like being shot to death. Oh, thanks, Reverend Al. Actually telling the truth for once. Candace Owens is the founder of Blexit. She's been saying something like this for a long time. Has been attacked for it. She joins us tonight. This, you don't want to overinterpret Al Sharpton on MSNBC, but he's been a pretty faithful water carrier for whatever Democratic administration is in power. This seems a little weird that he's saying this.
Certainly, and there's a lot going on here. First and foremost, Pete Buttigieg acting shocked. I completely disregard him all the time. He took a longer maternity leave than I did. I don't take him seriously at all. But Al Sharpton's interesting, and you're correct that we shouldn't misinterpret what he's doing here because he wants us to believe that he's telling the truth, but in reality, what he's trying to do is save whatever clout he has left in Black America. This is actually a signal. It should be a marker for us for how bad things have gotten in Black America, right? Because Al Sharpton used to go around and he lies full time to Black America about their circumstances. Even when he says, out of touch the way Black Americans are living. You too, Al Sharpton. Yeah, you live in a $2.1 million penthouse in the Upper East Side, and that's just one of your homes. You have an over $3 million tax lien last I checked, and you have to be making a ton of money to have a $3 million tax lien. Let's just be very clear on that, right? So he has no idea how Black Americans are living either. But what he's realizing right now is that Black Americans for a long time have followed his lies. They believed his lies. They kept believing that Democrats would make their lives better. Well, suddenly you're looking around and they're saying, okay, things are actually so devastatingly bad in our community that we will no longer buy the lie that voting for a Democrat is going to make things better. And we have just watched and listened to you. We voted for Biden and Kamala, and things have gotten not even progressively worse, embarrassingly worse. I did not even predict that it would get this bad this quickly for Black America. So what he's doing is he's saving his own skin, right? So now he's trying to play I'm now going to be the peacemaker, the communicator of how Black Americans are feeling. And so we shouldn't misinterpret it. Yes, he is telling the truth, but his motives behind telling the truth is really just to save Al Sharpton's own skin so he can purchase another penthouse. I mean, the only person that I know that has a bigger real estate empire than Al Sharpton is perhaps Black Lives Matter leaders.
Can I just ask you, a lot of the people who lecture us from some high moral pedestal don't pay their taxes, I've noticed. How do you wander around free with a $3 million tax debt? I mean, the rest of us kind of pay our taxes because we're afraid not to. Like, how does he get away with that?
Right. He votes Democrat. That's it. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
simple. If you vote Democrat, you're never held responsible for anything. How is Hunter Biden not in prison based on what's been put in his laptop? I mean, could any other person be doing drugs in a laptop and not be arrested and do the things that he's done regarding prostitution and drugs? No, but you vote Democrat. And if you're willing to vote for Democrats and do their bidding and bring voters to them, they'll look and pretend that you haven't done anything. And so it's sad, but that is the truth of the circumstances. They never have to pay for the things that they do.
Yeah, it's discouraging to those of us who pay our taxes. Honestly, it really is. Candace Owens, appreciate your clarity, as always. Thank you.
Now, are your eyes open yet? Now we're going to touch on the Disney. This is going to get interesting. All right, are you ready?
Joining us now with reaction, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, along with senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, Victor Davis Hanson. Thank you both for being here. Pam, we did a little bit of quick research. In California, where Disneyland is located, Disney does not have a sanctuary country inside California where they have their own distinct tax status. Yet, Democrats are losing their mind over the fact that Florida is simply leveling the playing field and saying, hey, Disney, you don't get to be your own country.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Pete. And those woke executives that live in California pay about 40% more in their taxes than the executives that live in the great state of Florida. So, we passed this bill in Florida, and I'm so proud of Wilton Simpson, our Senate president, and our governor for signing it and bringing them to light on it. And this is why it's so important. The first bill, the parental rights bill, as you said, it is protecting 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds, okay? Yes. Kindergarten through third graders from not talking about sex in school. I think any parent in America would agree with that. Passed, done, great law. Then Disney comes in, they lie about our governor, they lie about our Senate, they lie about our House, they lie about what parents want in the state of Florida, and they're held accountable. What they did was they didn't stay in their own lane. Their lane is entertaining families and making a lot of money for their shareholders. Yet they shined a huge spotlight on themselves. This law is 55 years old. None of us actually knew the extent of the privileges that Disney had in their own kingdom, and now they're taken away.
Yeah, and their lane used to be wholesome content that parents could count on, and now turn on Disney Plus, and you don't know what new woke series you're gonna see if you leave your kids unattended. Victor, when you look at this, it used to be Democrats that would fight against corporate carve-outs or tax breaks for big businesses. Now they are falling over themselves to protect one. Why this change, Victor?
Well, I think it's just a matter of we're going to force this down people's throats, and how dare you object to us? I mean, it's kind of highly ironic. Disney's got a market capitalization, Pete, of $300 million, and they're worried about Disney has this autonomous zone. And all DeSantis did in the legislature, they just said, let's go back to normality. And Disney's in a bad place because how many places in the United States have 20 million people in an all-weather, climate? Maybe Florida, California, and Texas, and that's about it. You need a big population, you need warm weather, so that they're at the mercy. And it's very ironic because remember the last decade we've been told that private business can really force these conservative states to their knees. So if they have ID laws, Major League Baseball will boycott them. Or if South Carolina has just 2 bathrooms and all of our California companies here will shut out billions of dollars. So now it's sort of reversed. It's not even equal yet. But the states are saying, we can do this too. We can pass laws that reflect our values, just like you can boycott our states. But they get hysterical. Because I think that the subtext of all of this, whether it's critical race theory in the schools, or it's transgenderism, or it's open borders, 51% don't agree with any of these ideologies, none of these agendas. So they either have to change the demography or they have to indoctrinate young people. So when Weingarten has this stuff about wars, it's kind of ironic that she was right, that indoctrination of young kids, whether it was in the Third Reich or the Soviet system or Mao's China, was essential to creating an autocracy and a totalitarian ideology, which, we know how that all ended for everyone. And so that's what they're doing because they can't win the people. They don't have a effective persuasive agenda, and people have rejected it, and they're going crazy, and they're saying, well, we got to go to the kids then, or we've got to bring in new people, or we've got to change the system because we can't win anymore because we've gone off the deep end.
Pam, that feels right. It feels like the woke versus the newly awake, who realize what they take it for granted for quite some time. What's been the reaction, honestly, amongst apolitical independents inside Florida based on the mischaracterization of this bill? How do they really view it?
Well, Floridians everywhere. I mean, they can't believe it. I think Disney, I think people are giving up Disney Plus. They're giving up their season passes. Disney, they didn't stay in their lane, and they're wrong, and they lied about our state, and they lied about what our parents want in our state, and they are supposed to be the organization that looks out for families. Yet they're enjoying a privilege that Universal doesn't enjoy, SeaWorld doesn't enjoy, our museums don't have, our aquariums don't have. And now we are leveling the playing field in the state of Florida, and they're going to have to abide by it. And it was their mistake because they brought this to light on themselves. And, in Florida, we're not going to put up with these woke corporations. It's unbelievable that we're even having to talk about this. And in our schoolrooms and in our classrooms, the books that they're putting out there, it's truly unreal. But in the state of Florida, we're going to look out for parents and children, and we're going to continue to do that.
Victor, we don't have much time, and it's kind of a big question, but do the best you can. Is the left capable of any self-reflection based on electoral viability, or did they have to double down because of their thirst for ideology and control?
Well, no, they're ideologues. They're not capable of any concessions or moderation. That's what ideologues are. They've hijacked the old Democratic Party, and they would rather lose and be ideologically correct than win and be ideologically incorrect. And these are sins of not just commission, Pete, their omission. They assume that these first, second, and third graders are getting great education, and they know art and music and literature and language, and they're so well taught by these brilliant teachers that they have time to teach transgenderism. Well, that should be the last thing until they get the basics, and we know that our kids are not getting a good education at all.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, look out in 2022 in the midterms. If Democrats get wiped out, watch them say it's because we weren't left enough. Are they capable of learning? I don't feel like they are. Pam, Victor Davis Hanson, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
So, what are your thoughts on transgenderism and the Marxist ideology taught in colleges and indoctrinating the youth? Let me tell you something. Look in Venezuela. They voted in socialism. And you know what? People who voted in socialism cannot fight back. They cannot change their governments. And the money is virtually worthless. Some people are fleeing Venezuela to come up to live in the United States because of the land of the free and home of the brave. But most people are here talking about bringing communism to the United States. Haven't we forgotten from Cuba and the former Soviet Union that communist policies will not work? Socialism will not work. Haven't we forgotten? Those who forget history is doomed to repeat it. Anyways, that's all I got to talk about, and I need to know what your comment on this is. And thank you for watching this show. Have a great day, and peace out.